Welcome to the joy of coding.
Welcome to episode 30 of The Joy of Coding. I'm Mike Conley. Welcome. This week, same as every other week, we're going to be hacking on Firefox Desktop. It's going to be a good time. I have the agenda all set up. Let's take a look. Whoop. Here it is. So, today is October the 14th. And I'm so sorry for missing last week's episode. Something came up, unavoidable, and I really apologize. So if you're wondering what happened last episode, maybe you missed it. You didn't miss anything. It's just I wasn't there, and it was kind of late notice, so I apologize for that. I have another update on a bug that we'd been working on a couple of weeks back regarding the page style menu. This bug's actually been fixed now. I fixed it. And the approach I ended up going for ended up being the caching one, where we have the page sort of report a cache of all of the style sheets up to the parent at particular times, and have the parent hold on to it so that the menu pop-up can synchronously access the contents of the cache to populate the page style menu. I don't know if you were there whenever I discovered this, but the original plan was to maybe just dynamically at pop-up open time, send a message down to the child saying, well, what are the style sheets for this page? And then send a message back up and eventually populate the menu. But that doesn't work for OS X because of the funky sort of hackery we do in order to make the global menu bar work. Any kind of dynamic modification of a menu pop-up, for at least for these types of menus, doesn't work. So it would only work the next time you opened it. So that was no good. We had to chuck that plan, and that's why I went with caching. And that works now. So if you look in your page style menu pop-up and you check your browser console, you shouldn't be getting any more unsafe kapow warnings. If we were to go to the alternative CSS style sheet page and page style insane, no unsafe kapow warnings. So that's good. That bug is fixed. And if you're interested in checking out the patch that I ended up writing, it's right here, 114.1041. What are we doing today, though? Today is, well, we're going back to a bug that I've been brushing up against for over a year now. It's been featured in a couple of episodes, but I'm really hoping that we're close to cracking this one. It's not one of my most favorite bugs, but that's kind of reality. Sometimes you just end up working on a bug that becomes your nemesis, and lately this bug has kind of become my nemesis, and I've sort of been avoiding it. So we have these milestones that we're supposed to work on for the electrolysis team. We're currently on milestone 8, if you're curious to know what that is. I will show you. I'll put that in here in the agenda. Oh, but I should mention the agenda. This isn't very useful to you unless you can click on things. And you can, because the agenda is being synced between me typing it in here into a document on the internet. So if you go down to the bottom of this video that you're watching, if you're watching on AirMozilla anyways, there should be an additional links section, and that should have a link to this agenda, and you can click on various bits of it. And so now you can see all of the M8 bugs. These are all the bugs that we have left from milestone 8. And I only have 2 assigned to me in here. And this one, the fix has just been landed on one of our integration branches. So that's baking and should be out in tomorrow's nightly, hopefully. And so I'm left with the last bug, the one that I didn't really want to, I've kind of been avoiding it because I don't like this bug. But sometimes you just have to do what you've got to do. And I know I have no more excuses. It's now the last bug for me to work on, so I have to focus on it. And so we're in. So this bug has a lot of history. If I'm going to refamiliarize you real quick with the bug. There's when I say a lot of history, I mean a lot. Look, these are my notes, and so it goes on for quite a while. A lot of discoveries. And hold on, I'm being visited. What's up? Oh, okay. Josh is just watching me. Not washing me. That'd be completely different. They normally have to pay double for that kind of action. So the bug I wanted to talk about was this one. This is the option bubbling bug, and here's how it works. So these menu pop-ups that you'll see whenever we open like these select drop-downs, the way we're doing it with electrolysis is not the way we do it with single process. Where in single process Firefox, if I were to open up any of these like select drop-downs, I said menu pop-up before and that wasn't right. If I open up any of these select drop-downs, this is actually being opened, this little pop-up drop-down is being opened directly in the content process. Or in this case, it's a single process, so it's being opened in the same process that the actual DOM is inside. Now in multi-process, the content process that has the DOM inside it doesn't actually have access to anything that would allow it to open up pop-ups, at least not directly. And that's kind of on purpose, especially because we don't want it so that, like, you notice how I can open this pop-up in single process mode. I can open it outside of the region of the window, like this. That should not be possible with, like, we don't want the content process to be able to open up anything outside of its content drawing area. I mean, there's a whole lot of machinery in place to make sure it can just draw in here. So what's our solution? Our solution is to listen for events from the content process saying, I'm about to open up one of these select drop-downs, and then we capture that event, and we sort of analyze we analyze the contents of the select, and then we message it all up to the parent, and create this menu list thing in Zool, and open it at just the right position underneath the select. So it's kind of an illusion. And it's not the best solution, but it's probably the one that looks the most correct for styling. We tried a number of different solutions, and this was the one we eventually settled on. And believe it or not, this is actually closer to the native, like OS X. At least on OS X, it looks more native than what we used to do, like with single process. This looks far less native, this sort of drop down, than say this, where you've got the checkbox and the colors are right. I mean, that's closer to native. So that's good. Now here's the problem. The problem is that you can get these cases where you've got an event listener on, say, the select item, the select element, and then you have the option element that is inside the select, and maybe you're listening for click events on those options. So you're expecting, or the web developer is expecting, that whenever you click on one of these options in the pop-up, that a click event will bubble up to the select element on the outside, and then we'll do something. But the problem is that the select dropdown is being opened up in the parent, and so we have to like capture the events that are occurring in this pop-up in the parent, and then synthesize them and send them back down to the child and replay them on the option elements down in the child. And so we've got all the machinery to do that in place. That's what we've written. But one of the problems seems to be that either the events are not running at the right time, or I'm greatly misunderstanding our event mechanisms, like our event dispatching mechanisms. Because whenever the content process receives the event for, say, click, so in this test case, whenever I click on this button enabled event, or button enabled element, what's supposed to happen is that the event handler on the outside is supposed to change the value, the disabled value of this button. And that doesn't work. And the reason that doesn't work is because by the time the content process hears about this click event that we've like synthesized and sent down to the child, our event handler checks the value of the select to see whether or not it's supposed to enable or disable this button, but the value is still at the old value and not at the new value of button enabled, which is what we use to choose whether or not to select this button. And in single process Firefox, that's not the case. By the time this is single process window, by the time you fire that event handler, the value of the select dropdown has changed, so there's an ordering problem. I've got the model wrong a little bit. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to try and do a bit of research, and hopefully you'll follow along, of figuring out what events fire when in the single process case and in the multi-process case. We're basically going to like do a full-blown audit of how events are triggered whenever I click in the sort of the Zool menu list thing in the parent, how they're captured and then dispatched down to the child, and then what order they're replayed in. And then we're going to do something similar with single process case and figure out what order they're replayed in down to the child, in in the single process case, what order they're intercepted in. And then we're also going to be looking at what the values of the select dropdowns and the uh, values are sort of at the same time to see when those are supposed to change. And hopefully that will give us some clues as to where I'm going wrong, because I think I've got something wrong here. So that's today's plan. If I should point out that we are inside an IRC channel. If you want to talk with me while I'm working on this, maybe you've got some ideas on how I can better fix this bug. Maybe you're seeing the problem and I'm not seeing it. Maybe that's like driving you crazy. And so I invite you to drop into IRC in irc.mozilla.org. I am in the #live hacking channel, and if you're watching this on Air Mozilla again, there's an additional links section, and there should be a link to a very, well, I say simple, but reasonably simple web-based IRC client. So you don't have to download anything or install anything. You can just start participating. You can talk to me in IRC. I am M. Conley in the live hacking channel. So that's what's up, and that's what we're going to do. So let's get started. I've got our builds done. I finished some builds, and I'm all ready to roll. And if we take a look at the last couple of patches, I think I ended up like stripping out a bunch of the, well, I've got some logging in here. Some of it I commented out, but I do some logging and dumping out of stuff to the terminal. And that's not the worst thing in the world, but that's what we're basically going to do, is similar logging, and so we can maybe figure out the order of events. Okay, so the operative things to look at, I'm going to actually close a bunch of these files and get rid of some of the files that do not matter, and instead we can concentrate on what does matter. Let me just reorganize my workspace. Okay, so the files that I care about are select parent helper, select content helper. These are the things like this. This is the thing. The select parent helper is what's opening up the menu list, the Zuul menu list in the parent, and select content helper is what's the sort of companion component that wraps around the selects down in the child process, and they message one another. So let's see. First experiment. What are we going to do? We are going to, I guess we have a choice here. We can figure out what goes on in the single process case. Maybe that's the simplest. First experiment. Figure out the order of events in the single process case and the value of the select at each handler, in each handler. And then, and that's it. So we'll do that first. And then we'll write down our findings here. And then we'll do the same thing for the multi-process case, which will be slightly more interesting because we actually have to do it twice, once in the parent, once in the child, because we're doing the synthesizing and we want to make sure that's occurring in the right order. Pretty sure it will, but best to check. And then we'll compare and we'll see where we're screwing things up. And if the answer is that we're sending the events down in the right order, well, we've got ourselves a mystery, and that's interesting. I do like a good mystery. I hope you're hearing that smooth piano jazz in the background. That's really helping my mood here. All right. So, let's start. I have this like test case, and I guess I could use this. I'm going to create a new directory for this actually. What bug number is this? So this is bug number 1090602. It's pretty old. 1090602. Bug 1090602, and I'm going to get that. And so here's our test case. I'm going to rename it. Actually, I'll open this up in Sublime. And so what I want to do instead of just doing all this stuff is I'm going to also add an event listener. To the select element. So I have to remember how to do web development. Was document.get element by ID select and then select element function E. Woo. And what we're going to do is we're going to not dump, we're going to use console.log and say event. Now here's the thing, I normally have to like give it a type of event. Is there a way I can listen to all events? I seem to recall there may have been some way of doing that. Add event listener. Is there like a wildcard I can use? Event type. So many events. Is there anything about like add event listener wildcard? I guess not. That's no good. I was hoping that I could just be like, oh, wildcard for all events. I have a feeling this is... Oh, this was resolved, fixed, and DevDoc was needed. Added... What? We're going to do... Hey. So stuff was added to do this. Where's the dev documentation? Was it ever added? I guess not. So... Is there like a test case I can look at? I have a feeling you just like... Come on, test, 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 test. Test, that's the one. Test root, get element by ID, set time. Add a listener for all events. Oh. So I have a feeling we don't make this available for untrusted scripts for like just random web content. So shoot, we're gonna have to do this with like a subset. We're gonna have to like strictly define what events we care about. Shoot, alright. Well, what events do we care about? DOM events. Well, I think there's like add event listener event type. And I've got the order here wrong. I've got this all wrong. It's supposed to be select element dot add event listener and then the name of the event. In this case, I want to be able to do that, but I can't. So type, event type, event type. These are all the standard events, and there's so many of them. Ugh. These are all standard events. Well, maybe they're only, let's focus on a really small set. Let's focus on mouse events. So let's see. Mouse event would be click, context menu, double click, down. So all these, down, enter, leave, move, out, over, up, all of them. So let's do all of those. So click. Where else? What else do we see? Mouse event. This will be our... This should be enough information. Click, context menu, double click. Text menu, double click. Hang on a second. Just making sure I'm in the right IRC channel. with the right client. Okay, double click, and then what was next? We had like all of these: mouse down, enter, leave, move, out, and over, and up. And I think that's most of them. So mouse down, mouse enter, mouse leave, mouse over. What else? What else do we have? Ugh. Mouse down, enter, leave, move, out. Mouse enter. Mouse down, enter, leave, mouse move, mouse out, mouse over, mouse up. And that's that. So how many were there? There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we got them all. All right. Next was show. All right, and that's it. So we'll just do these. So events for let. Can I do no for var I equals 0? Or actually, I can do events dot for each function event name, and then we'll say that the event listener event name, and then we'll just say the event name, and then the value. You know what? We should also do it for both capturing and non-capturing. So capturing and bubbling. So true. Bubbling. Or capturing, I should say. And then select element dot value. Select element dot value. Okay, so we're going to see a bunch of stuff happen, I think, whenever we load this up in the single process case. So let's check it out. File, yes, and then bug 109.06.02. What? 109.06.02. That's where it was, wasn't it? 109.06.02. Project. Oh, I should probably move this out. So what I will do is close that. Bug. Wait, where am I? Yeah, move bug 109.06.02 up one level, and then this should work. Heyo. Okay, so we're in the single process case, so we should be seeing a bunch of stuff. Maybe too much stuff. Interesting. The value changes. Oh, I hadn't realized that. The value changes whenever the menu list changes. So maybe that's it. See what I'm talking about? Like, notice how the, hopefully you can see where I'm pointing. Here, I'll point with the mouse. Check out this sort of column where we can see that, like, even though I haven't closed the menu pop-up, the value is changing depending on which item is selected in the pop-up. That's really interesting. And like, if it starts enabled and I click off, then it's disabled again whenever I get back in, I think. Yeah. It's enabled, click off. Now it's disabled. Okay. So maybe that's all the information I need. You know, I was planning on doing this big analysis, but I've learned something pretty valuable there. So maybe we can simulate that. Maybe that's all we need. So how would we simulate that? We'd need a way in the parent of noticing whenever a menu item was being hovered, like was selected, and as soon as it's selected, we send a message down to the child to say the selection had changed. Right? My worry is what that's going to end up doing is like changing the contents of the select input. So, or this, like changing it so that if I were looking at a bug, I'm worried that what's going to happen. Here, I need a good example. My worry is that, like, what we'll end up seeing is like the item up here changing as we hover over all of these. If we like set select in script. But there's only one way to find out. And we're going to give it a shot. So, menu list. Let's learn about Zool menu lists. Attributes, read only, on command, focused. Okay, that's not what I care about. But what about menu item? Yeah. Auto check checked. Tab index. Control. Well, what we could do is we could add a similar set of listeners to the pop-up that we make in the parent. We could do that. So, where are we? Add bug 109.0.602 index. That will be what we'll go to, but we need to add the event listeners, and that's these. We'll do the exact same thing in the parent. So when the pop-up is opened, register listeners on the menu list pop-up. And we just do this, but not on the select element. We'll do it on for each menu list, menu pop-up, add event listener, and then we need to get the value. The value is the menu list dot value. Pretty sure we only get one shot at this too, because after the menu list closes, we haven't removed any of these event listeners. So we're gonna like every time the thing opens, we're gonna get spammed with more and more and more log messages. Also, console.log is no good. We gotta do something like dump. This is a one-time only test. One time only. One time. One time. Build. Here's the best. Build faster. Thank you, Glandium. And whoever else worked on this. But I can, like, build really quickly now whenever I only change JavaScript. Which is awesome. So now we want to go to the 109.0.602. Right? That's where we were. Right, but we didn't have it in the... History. Okay. So now we have our terminal here, and that's where all the logging is going to be. And I'll just drag this to the right. So the value, notice it isn't changing. The value is always 0. That's very interesting. So we should write that finding down. So we did this experiment. Our finding was actually quite interesting. We've got a mismatch on how choosing items in select dropdowns behaves over choosing items in menu list dropdowns. In select dropdowns, it seems that we set the value on the select to be the hovered value when the mouse, or presumably the keyboard, has selected an item with the drop-down still open. With menu list, this is not the case. The menu list value stays the same until the user has confirmed with either a mouse click or pressing enter. So that's the problem. We have identified, I think, the problem. Now the question is, what do we do? What do we do about this? So, brainstorm time. Let's take a look at these events again. We saw mouse move, mouse out, mouse up, etc. Are there any like Zool specific events that we could listen to and then like non-standard events, Zool events, checkbox state change, DOM menu item active? That sounds right. A menu or menu item has been hovered or highlighted. That sounds exactly what we want. So if we like detect this DOM menu item active and then send a message down to the child saying, this item is active, change your selection to be it, that might work. Let's try something. Let's try an experiment. What's our experiment going to be? DOM menu item active might be a very useful event here. Let's put the SOAR documentation here. Experiment. Second experiment. For each menu item, no, just listen for DOM menu item active on the menu pop-up. On receiving it, send a message down to the child changing the select value. I wonder when DOM menu item active is fired too, like in what order. I can actually figure that out, I think, by doing this. DOM menu item active. And it's going to be a lot of stuff. I think if I get rid of mouse move, that might make things clearer. So let's see when it's fired, or get a sense of when it's fired. DOM menu item active. DOM menu item active. It's fired at the end, it looks like. Well, after all of the mouse out, mouse leave, mouse over, mouse enter is fired, then DOM menu item active is fired. After mouse enter. That's probably okay. Alright. Okay. So, experiment. Yeah, listen for the DOM menu item active on the menu pop-up. On receiving it, send a message to the child changing the select value. Let's just do that, quick and dirty. And let's see if we see the select value actually change in the select item, and if so, well then that's not perfect yet. So DOM menu item active. That's actually the same thing that we want to do here. So let's see what that does. Yeah, see, it's changing the value of the select. Arrgh. And we don't even handle the event properly. Grrr. Okay. Okay, I feel like we made some progress there, though. Problem. The problem with sending down the change value, the DOM menu item active value, is that it's changing the appearance of the select toggle with every item I hover over, which is not the correct behavior. So how does select get around this? How does single process select get around this? How is the value changed without changing the handle? Value on the select changed without changing the handle. Exploration time. We're going to figure out how this select dropdown works. Okay. Take a quick peek. Where would it be? Well, probably in DOM. DOM. And then something like select HTML something or other. It's not going to be in base. Network. Wow. You know what? There's an easier way to do this. HTML select element, I think is what it's called. Yay, I got it right. And it's under DOM HTML, of course. Why didn't I think that? Why didn't I think of that? It's under DOM HTML. HTML select element. So what are we looking at here? Set as weird parser insertion mode. Oh man. Oh, set up our default state. Enabled, optional, and valid. Add states silently. That sounds interesting. Insert child at, remove child at, insert options into list, remove option from list, will add options, will remove options, getting the options, get the select frame. And some adding, removing to the DOM. I guess add and remove is for when it's added and removed from the DOM. Get type, get length, set length. Set selected index internal. Clear all. Notify. Notify is set disabled. Whether or not to notify, we have this like notify flag. On option selected. Who fires that? There's this big ass function here. Or method, I should say. What does this do? Actually doing the selections. I want like mouse handlers or something, I think. Select something. Bind to tree, unbind from tree. What is update state? That might be useful. Done adding children, parse enemy. Is disabled for events. Interesting. I wonder if somehow we're not calling update state. Restore state. Dispatch content reset. Who fires that? Restore state. Who fires restore state? Who calls restore state? I'm just trying to see if I can figure out, just get a really rough idea of like all of the mechanisms of the HTML select element. Form control state. Oh, that's like if on a session, restoring a session or something. Alright. Presentation state, I understand. Okay. Restore state 2 is also called by done adding children. So I wonder if restore state 2 is being called in the case where, like, you do something like float over all these things and then, like, move off. I think I need to better understand how the select element works in the content process. I think that is clearly necessary. The good news is I have Xcode and I have a debug build. So I should be able to figure this out, I think. Excuse me. Okay. So I'm going to do the single process case first, and I'm going to see if I can sort of get a sense of how the select pop-up works inside HTML select element. I've never sort of monkeyed around. This is my first time playing around in HTML select element, so I'm going to use a debugger and sort of try and gain a mental model of how it functions. So I'm going to open up a non-eTNS window, and so I will be attaching to the parent process. And do I have Xcode? All right. Oh, where are my keyboard shortcuts? Okay. Attach to process. That's the one. If you haven't noticed, I've upgraded my operating system. I have, what is this? Yosemite? I'm running Yosemite now, so everything's new and shiny. Okay, so pause that, and I'm going to break on restore state. Restore state 2, I should say. HTML select element restore state 2. And this is in a non-eTNS window. Huh. Okay, so that's not how we restore the state, not with restore state 2. Okay, so we can get rid of that breakpoint. Break, delete, 6. And where do we want to break instead? Notify? There's something about like update state. Update state. Set selection changed, maybe. Is that what's being fired? Yes, that is being fired. We got our list control frame. Noticing that we're moving the mouse. We've got this like, there's this weird like coupling between the HTML select element and the list control frame. Like, I don't fully understand how those all like tie together, but there is a relationship clearly between the two. They communicate with one another. They're like, I think these things are, an HTML5 or an HTML select element is composed of an NS list control frame and an NS list combo box or something. Something like that. And we choose whether or not we're going to notify. We're in here. You know what? This backtrace might be useful. I'm going to hold on to this. In the single process case, we do enter set selection changed. It was HTML select element set selection changed. on mouse overing an option with the following trace. Whoops, whoops, whoops. I want to make sure that there we go. So we have that trace on option selected, and a notify, we are going to notify. So what are we going to do here? This is now what step over is. Update selection options. Ah, so we don't enter this. We don't update state. That's interesting. So when do we enter update state? So like, let me disable this breakpoint. Break, disable. What was that breakpoint? That was disabling. That was breakpoint 7. Now break HTML select element. Update state. No, that's not the one. Break, delete, 8. What was it? Yeah, update state. Is it not defined in here? Update state. So I guess it must inherit it. Let's find out where it's actually. Jump to definition. Update state. Jump to definition. Come on, DXR, I need your info. Here we go. Then we call content state changed. Okay. So is this what we do? Like, how about if we set selection changed? Do we... If I set a breakpoint on 1876, do we fire that whenever I like actually select the element? So HTML select, what was it? HTML select element, and the line number is 1876. No, that's not the mechanism that chooses whether or not to update this. There's something else entirely. Okay. Interesting. So what chooses what to display? Let's look at that stack again. We're inside set selection changed, inside set options selected from frame, and a list control frame. Control frame. Set the option selected in the DOM. His name is the frame is the source of the event rather than the receiver. I don't understand that model. My mental model. It's all wrong. This method is named as it is because it indicates that the frame is the source of the event rather than the receiver of the event. The frame is not receiving the event, it's the source of the event. Okay. That's from single selection. So we must enter from here. And what about like on mouse down? Is current option changed? Clicked index. We haven't clicked anything. Was changed. This single selection. Clicked index was 1. Even though we didn't click on anything. A do toggle. False. What is do toggle? Do toggle. If do toggle was changed as toggle option selected from change. So if I were to click, is do toggle true? Let's find out. I will set another breakpoint. Break, delete 9. Whoop. Break, delete 9. Break, and that. NSList control frame, actually, I'm going to do a specific line number. We're going to do line number 655. No, that's not what's going on. Mouse down is different, I guess, and I haven't found yet how it's different. But we're on the right track. This feels good. I feel like I'm getting a better sense of how this all is starting to play together. Mouse down. Here we go. Come on, mouse down. Ignore isn't only allow selection with the left button, and then we do handle list selection. List selection, perform selection. So maybe that's only entered when we click. So let's find out. B. Nope. We perform selection even when we hover. Was changed is false. Ah. Okay. And what about if I click? Break, delete, 11. Let's see if we return was changed, perform selection, handle list selection was called, and change is the value there. M changes since drag start. Drag move. Fire on change. On mouse up, maybe. When mouse up occurs. So maybe it's mouse up that we care about. If is disabled. Okay, I'm having a brainwave here, I think. I don't know, there's like this sort of really vague sense of what's going on here where like on the mouse up event, we probably do something special to actually change the appearance of the select drop down on the mouse up event. Something in here. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to break in mouse up. Okay. update in list state. Like, I kind of want to see when everything gets updated, when we flush the UI. Although maybe we'll defer it. Like, when will this become disabled? When will it say disabled in that drop down? When did it do it? I didn't even notice. Oh man. Does it do it afterwards? Yeah, it must. Mouse up. And then enabled fire. And then it... When does it do it? When do you change, bud? Come on. Like, come on! This is me expressing frustration. Is it in response to an on change event? Fire on change. Dispatch trusted event. Maybe it's on only when we fire on change, when something responds to this event. Let's do something tricky. Let's get rid of that. Let's not do that anymore. And we'll detach from you. Detach. And where are we here? We are in list control frame, which is in layout. I haven't been playing too many sounds. That's another thing I've realized.
Oh yeah.
It's just because I don't know. This is a slog. This bug.
I can't do my work.
I think it would help if I more understood. Like I'm crawling forward. I hope you can feel that too. That we're just like crawling forward, understanding how this select dropdown works. Okay, in the non-ETNS case, what I'm expecting is that we'll not update this value when I choose button enabled. No, it still works. Despite my hackery. So what is this thing? There's like the list control frame, and then there's the like combo box thing. And maybe that's what I should be paying attention to. What is communicating with the combo box as combo box control frame? Change. Or so value? Set value? What are the things that we can do with this thing? Combo box control frame .h. Handle event, it can reflow. It can paint. Set focus, set drop downs, and roll up from list. Get index of display area. On option selected. On set selected index. These might be interesting. On option selected. I missed my keyboard shortcut. Maybe I can quickly add it back. Key bindings. Debug. Or attach. key. There, that's what I like. Whoop, nope, nope, nope. That. That's apparently in conflict with something here, which I will get rid of. Just get rid of it. There we go. So now I have my keyboard shortcut. Bayo! I will attach to the parent. Oh, my face is getting really washed out. It's getting sunny. Hold on a sec. It's preventing you from seeing my my mug, my facial mug. All right. So what I'm gonna do is now set a breakpoint. I like this. On option selected. That sounds compelling. Break NS combo box control frame. Box control frame. On option selected. Break NS combo box control frame on set selected index. Okay. And this is the mouse handler. I'm gonna get rid of this breakpoint. Okay. There's no breakpoints here. And no breakpoints. Oh! On option selected. If we're dropped down, and we do that business. Okay. You know what? I have a feeling I'm gonna regret that breakpoint. What was that breakpoint? On option selected. Yeah, here. Maybe I should add a breakpoint here on 1642. Let's break, delete, 7B, yes, combo, box, control, frame, CPP, 1642. No! 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 That's not what's going on. I thought for sure. So on option selected. Gets the content and option by index and then set it as being selected or not selected. And what about this on content reset business? B. S combo box control frame. I'm just saying breakpoints willy-nilly now to see if I can get a picture of it. No, that's not it either. Notify geometry change roll up. Reflow. Redisplay text event. What's that? Redisplay text event. Let's look at this. Break, break, break. Come on. There we go. Aha! Aha! I think we found the mechanism, folks. I think we've found the mechanism that updates the text that's displayed. And it's done sort of asynchronously on like a pump of the event loop. But we can find out what dispatches this redisplay text event thing. Hey, alright. That's good. Redisplay text. Handle redisplay text event. So redisplay text is what does it. And who? All right, I'm gonna get rid of break, delete 11, and instead combo box control frame. This is good stuff, folks. Okay, so what happens on a mouse up? We do this combo box finish on a mouse up. And that's when we change the display text. Alright, I think it's starting to take shape. It's not into the index on combo box finish. Okay. Alright, I think I get it. And I'm also going to get that. Oh shoot, I should have gotten that backtrace. Here, I want a backtrace here. Alright, I'm going to hopefully explain what's going on in just 1 second. Here's the backtrace for the thing. Combo box. Control frame. One mouse up. Okay. Okay. First things first. NS combo box control frame. Combo box control frame equals the thing in content that you click on that shows a pop-up. NS list control frame equals the thing that is shown as a pop-up in the single select case. But can also be shown for the multiple select case inline in content, or embedded in content. Okay, that's the first thing. That's how I'm pretty sure these two relate to one another. And NS combo box control frame is here, play. This is an NS combo box control frame. This is an NS list box control frame. Pretty sure that's the relationship there. Ooh, I've got this like light beam slashing through my face. I should have chosen a better position. It's just it's blinding me. All my lighting is going wrong today. We have these two pieces, and I think when the list control frame is open, when the list control frame is open in drop-down mode and opened, we select the values on it and change the value of parent. In this case, I guess that's the HTML select element. You know what I should do before I continue is look at the case where we like do this and we click off. Like we roll up. Some kind of roll up event. Roll About to roll up. Combo box finish. We've been updating the combo box with the keyboard up until now, but not with the mouse. The problem is, even with the mouse selection, we are updating the select. So here's what's this is an interesting comment. So if the mouse goes over an option just before he leaves the box and clicks, that's what the select will show. To deal with this, we say whatever is in the combo box is canonical. If the combo box is different from the currently selected index, we reset the index. So if we're in drop-down mode, we finish, and we say get the index of display area. Get index of display area. So that's the thing that's displayed in here. Like the thing that's actually displayed in here is the index called displayed index. And then there's like the selected index. And then so combo box finish. Combo box finish. If the display index, in this case, index of display area, is not equal to the index, then we update. Perform selection on the index. We make sure, perform selection is going, okay, so this is the part that actually will reset the selection. So that's what's occurring. Like, as you're hovering over each of these elements, a selection is being changed. The selection is being changed, but whenever you roll up, we combo box finish with, we reset the displayed value to be what the display, we reset the selection to be whatever is being displayed in the combo box explicitly. All right, we're making progress here, people. So when the NS list control frame is in drop down and open, we select the values on it and change the value of the parent. If we roll up without selecting anything, then we reset the value, select value, to match the already being displayed value. On mouse up inside the NS list control frame, we notice if the selected we update the selection and what? Might destroy us. Perform selection. So on mouse up, we do this. Count one. We do the actual we combo box finish. Update selection and do combo box finish with the selected index, which causes us to redisplay, to update the displayed index in the combo box. Okay. And then we fire on change. Okay. Okay, we're starting to make some progress here. This is interesting. So what do we do with this information? Now that we know this, what do we do? It'd be so nice if we could have some kind of drop-in replacement for NS list control frame that did the work of messaging up to the parent. Like, we could fake one out. And it did the messaging, And so NS combo box control frame would know how to interact with it. Stuff. Actually, I don't know if that'd be valuable. There's so much logic inside NS list control frame that we'd probably just end up duplicating a lot of it. But isn't that kind of what we're doing? We'd be doing by manually setting the selection of the NS list control frame. Maybe we shouldn't be selecting the NS list control frame. Is that something that I can like manipulate from XPCOM, like with privileged? Like, is there NSI list control frame? Is that a thing I can mess around? I have a feeling it's not. I have a feeling it's not scriptable. NSI list control frame. I got a feeling most of this is not scriptable. So what about NSI combo box control frame? I have a feeling it'll be very similar. This is interesting. I think this is important, this documentation. When the drop-down is dropped down via mouse click and the user moves the mouse up and down without clicking, the currently selected item is being tracked inside the drop-down, but the combo box is now being updated. When the user selects items with the arrow keys, the combo box is being updated. So when the user clicks outside the drop-down, it needs to roll up, it has to decide whether to keep the current selection or not. This method is used to get the current index in the combo box to compare it to the current index in the drop-down, see if the combo box has been updated, and that way it knows whether to cancel the current selection residing in the drop-down or whether to leave the selection alone, which is basically our discovery. This is what we're discovering here. What do we do? And menu lists don't have this problem? I guess this isn't when we open it in multi-process mode. Well, let's find out. I'm pretty sure Azul menu list is not using NS list control frame, but who knows? Maybe it is. So let's find out. NS list control frame. What are we going to choose? NS list control frame, mouse up. Let's do that. Break NS list control frame, mouse up. So now we'll go to the eTNS enabled window. And we'll see. No, it's completely different. It's a different code path. Rigadoo. Aliasa as how are we gonna do this? What would be great is if NSList control frame could be, I don't know, could be remotable. Like, it's designed to work across processes. What else am I thinking? We might have to add a special mode to NSList control frame for like invisible or remoted or something, so that the NS combo box control frame believes that it's not so that the NS combo box control frame believes that it's open when it's opened in the parent. It's kind of what we've already done. But the other part is so that, but perhaps we can also expose some other function, some other method that we can use from script, privilege script, to change the selection of the remoted NSList control frame without changing the displayed text inside the NS combo box control frame. Can that be done? That's a good question. I don't know. To put it clear, to make it clear, or to put it a finer point on it, can we give NSList control frame the following new functionality? 1. Remote mode that makes it so that the frame never opens. Never actually opens or shows. Remote mode, and then the ability to listen to a special type of message or event that will allow it to change its internal selection without reflecting it in the NS combo box control frame. Is this even advisable? Maybe I should talk to N or Smog. Okay, well, I think we actually, So the last time I worked on this bug, I think we got nowhere. Is like what I remember from working on this bug last time, is we got like pretty much nowhere. And this time I feel like we learned a lot, or at least I feel like I learned a lot. Hopefully I'm not like just relearning the same things over and over again. Like, I have these copious notes, and I hope I'm not just repeating these same discoveries again and again and again, because I keep going away from this bug and coming back. Wish I could, like, I'm gonna highlight that so I never forget. Never forget. That's the relationship. And I think I've kind of got an idea on how to proceed. I've got this very vague sense of how we could perhaps proceed. Even this first part we've already done, sort of. In that, I think if you look at the NS list control frame header, I think I've added a new, like, is remote or something. Remote. Or like there's some special mode. I think I just checked to see whether or not we're running in the content process, and then it behaves slightly differently. Okay, so I think what I'll do now is I think I'm going to call it. I think I'm going to end the show for today. And the next steps, I guess, are to talk to N and Smog and see if maybe we can hash out some kind of plan. But this is all I'm going to be working on for the next couple of days, much to my chagrin, as they say. But I think I'm feeling quite confident that we're going to smash this one out of the park as soon as we have a plan. And I'm going to learn a lot, and hopefully so will you. And we'll get to it. So, hi-oh. So I'm going to call this episode of The Joy of Coding. This was episode 30. Thank you so much for watching. I hope it was entertaining. I hope you learned stuff. I hope you got to see some interesting things. Do I have anything else I want to mention? Right, so if you're working on Mozilla things, maybe you're a web developer, maybe you're in QA, maybe you're working on bug triage, maybe you're doing any number of things. Maybe you're a designer. Who knows? People, I would imagine, are very interested. The wider community is probably interested in watching what it is that you do for a living, what it is that someone in your field does. Not just necessarily within the Mozilla community, but even just out in the world. They might be interested in knowing, like, what does a mobile QA person do? And so I highly recommend live streaming what you do on Air Mozilla, and that way you can show off what it is that we do here. And come talk to me. Come talk to me in Live Hacking. I'm M. Conley in Live Hacking. You also talk to Richard. We'd love to get some more shows here on Air Mozilla. We've been trying to spin up a couple more shows. We've already got kind of a couple. We've got Lost in Data, which the number of episodes, I think there's only 2 episodes at this point. Hopefully we'll start seeing some more. The Hour of Design is one of the designers for the Mozilla Foundation. He does semi-weekly live streams of design work that he does for the foundation, although I don't believe he's streaming today. So we'd love to see some more of these. It would be great if we could get like a whole bunch of shows going. So please talk to us, and we can maybe get you set up and figure out what you need to do. Because it's pretty straightforward, and all the software is all open source, and the setup is pretty straightforward. We can help you figure it out. All right, so that's all of my all I'm going to say, I think, about that. I'm going to switch to here. Again, thank you so much for watching episode 30 of The Joy of Coding. I should be back next week, barring any other unforeseen circumstances, and we'll hopefully I'll be done this bug by then, and we can move on to something more fun. But if not, we will slog through this, and we will get it. We are going to smash this bug into the ground. I know it. It's going to happen. We just have to be patient. We'll get through. So thank you again for watching, and I will hopefully see you next week. Bye.
The joy of coding.
See ya.